California Governor Gavin Newsom calls in the National Guard to crack down on a little fentanyl dealing in San Francisco after touring the decrepit Tenderloin District. Governor Newsom made a public appearance in the Tenderloin. That's something else right there. But it was a precursor to him basically saying, we can't handle this on our own. You need to send the feds in. You just sent the feds in. Remember when Trump was talking about sending the feds in and everybody got all worked up? I'm going to send the feds in. Everybody just got off. Now they're like, oh, God. Fentanyl crisis is terrible. Need to bring in the feds. Got to bring in National Guard. What do we got going on in California? Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Here we go. Governor of California Gavin Newsom has ordered state police and the California National Guard to partner with local law enforcement agencies to tackle San Francisco's drug problem and disrupt fentanyl trafficking. I was reading a Portland blog or some horse's ass thing, and the writer of said blog was like, yeah, we can't help it that, southern border is open, and we can't help it that all these fentanyl drugs and all these illicit drugs are just flooding into Portland. Can't help that at all. And I'm like, well, you created the demand. So it's a demand supply issue. You created massive demand by basically, allowing this to happen, not enforcing drug laws, decriminalizing drug laws, all that stuff. District attorneys that aren't prosecuting anybody. So you've created this utopia of drug use in Portland. So you might not have control beyond, state borders, but you're certainly personal responsibility. Just don't see any of that, right? So same thing with the whole California deal. They created a situation that now they're asking you and I, federal taxpayers, to step in and go, oh, let's help these guys out. They created this massive problem, created this massive demand. Well, let's step in. Let's get together. Let's work together on a solution. Figure it out yourself. You created it. You deal it. You dealt it. You smelt it. You dealt it. Whatever that is. My kids used to say that. The move comes after city officials requested state and federal assistance to tackle the issues of open-air drug dealing. So it's just gotten so bad in California that this is what we're doing. Literally. We need some help over here in left coast USA, particularly here in California, San Francisco. They've created such a scene, such a deal there that all of a sudden you're going to have a big task force. How about just enforcing the laws, before you decriminalized everything? What about that? Nah. Bring the feds in. Governor announced the plan on Friday, just days after taking a tour of the Tenderloin District with California Attorney General Rob Bonta and Mayor London Breed's chief of staff. Didn't even get the mayor herself. In which the trio assessed the situation for themselves and saw how bad the fentanyl crisis in the city has become. You take 10 steps throughout the Tenderloin and you'll figure it out real quick, right? It's not that hard to figure out. It's just, you got a bunch of people dealing dope out in the open. I mean, how hard is that to work out? Arrest them, throw them in jail, start to slow the supply down, but you're not doing that. You say you can't arrest your way out of it? I don't know. Give it a try. Give it a whirl. Let's see what happens. Throw a whole bunch of people in jail? Okay, yeah, let's do that. Instead, we're monkeying around with these task force, and we're just not doing the basics, which is, you defunded the police. You took a crap all over police. You decriminalized drugs. You made drug usage okay. All the criminal activities that allow people to fund their drug habits, you made that all okay. You're not throwing anybody in jail. You made homelessness okay. Just live wherever you want, sleep wherever you want, take a poop on, whatever sidewalk you want. But then when things get bad, we'll send people down. We'll take a look around and go, wow, this is bad. This is not good. Oh, we need to do something here. That's literally what this was by Newsom, right? Can you believe that joker's going to run for president? I hope he gets his ass kicked. I'm not a governor of the California fan. California Highway Patrol, National Guard, San Francisco Police Department, and the San Francisco District Attorneys will now collaborate to help the city address the drug problem. Well, you could have done that a while ago by not, creating all these policies that allowed this to just fester. You don't see this nonsense happening other parts of the country. You really don't. You just don't. So why is it all these West Coast, big towns, San Francisco, Portland, LA, Seattle, they've just, they've enabled this behavior for this kind of thing to just happen. And now the streets are, wildly impacting. If you care, here's video of Gavin Newsom just kind of, taking a tour around, taking a look and to see what happened in this fine city of San Francisco. What happened here? What are we going to do here? Well, you're going to have to figure that out. Governor Newsom has directed the California Highway Patrol to identify ways to assist local police, including the assigning of personnel and resources, technical assistance, training, and drug trafficking enforcement in key areas, particularly the Tenderloin District. That's the hotbed of San Francisco, right? That's just where things have just gone wildly out of control. And this is an area known for its high crime rates and illegal drug activity. And also, this is where the open air drug markets, the clean needle sites, this is where all of that nonsense has taken place. And now it's just this outlaw area of San Francisco. We've covered how many businesses close to this closing down because of their proximity to the Tenderloin. Well, now it's so bad that, I'll bring the feds in. All of a sudden, the feds are a good thing, right? It's so interesting how, well, when Trump was talking with mayor of Portland, the feds were terrible. They were huge, horrible. There were horrible individuals that were just plucking people off the streets. Remember that, in their unmarked cars with their their uniforms that didn't have the right insignias and whatever. What a bunch of nonsense that was, right? But here we are a few years later. We're kind of past that whole defund the police thing. That didn't work out so well. And all of this policy has created a situation where you've got just rampant overdose deaths with fentanyl the way it is. Portland is certainly seeing its King County that I live and work in here, is at least a couple of people a day are overdosing. A couple of people a day. Just boom, done. It's wild. Additionally, the governor instructed the California National Guard to identify specialist personnel and resources to analyze drug trafficking operations with a focus on dismantling fentanyl trafficking rings. Is this really going to help? Are they really committed to doing this? Because the only thing that I can see these West Coast cities are committed to is basically not enforcing the letter of the law on anything. It's okay. Just let it go. Just let it go. Shoplifting's okay. Drugs are okay. Prostitution, it's all okay. It's all good. It's part and parcel of this whole deal. So now all of a sudden things look bad and you've got all these businesses shutting down. Oh, this doesn't look good. This is not a good look for our fine city. Let's do a little collab. Let's do a little collab here, right? Now what the social media influencers talk about, let's collaborate. Let's you and I get together and we're going to do this message. It's just going to go viral. Well, this one's going viral, but not for the right reasons. It's like, what took you so long? Why are you involving federal money on an issue that you on the local level created, whether it's state or city or whatever basis? Because other states aren't requesting the federal government to come in and help with their, wipe their asses on cleaning up their fentanyl issue. They're really not. Other cities are not doing this. But San Francisco, it's just gotten so bad that, we got to do something. Let's bring in the feds. Let's bring in the National Guard. Through this new collaborative partnership, we are providing more law enforcement resources. There's the key. More. You just bring in a bunch of resources in. What about that for that hot split second where we were just all on board with, defunding the police, taking assets and resources and moving them over to here because, we needed more police accountability. And now everybody's just begging for more cops, period. What about that? Well, it gives me something to talk about all the time, right? Like just about every single day. So we've got two truths can coexist at the same time. San Francisco's violent crime rate is below comparably sized cities like Jacksonville and Fort Worth. And there's also more we must do to address public safety concerns, especially the fentanyl crisis. Now, violent crime, murder in San Fran, yes, it is lower than a Jacksonville or Fort Worth or some of these other similar sized towns. that have massive, or Chicago, So San Francisco's crime rate, its violent crime rate. Yeah, it might be less, but man, it's property crime and all the other criminal activities associated with fentanyl use. Those are more. And in my opinion, the vast majority of criminal activity that's happening out there, breaking into stores, robbing people, tons of that is just not being reported because it's gotten so bad that, governor has to step in and go, all right, we need to do something here. We got to get something going. It's bad. That same level of badness, the residents and store owners are already aware of because they're dealing with it so often. They're flat not calling the criminal activities in. So this stuff is not being tabulated. Crime statistics are not being kept the way that they normally would because we've got such an epidemic of it going on along with the whole fentanyl thing. You've created this out of control situation. Now you're going to have to work with some solutions to figure it out. And it's not going to come at the local level. This is beyond the local level. That's what we're saying. I think Portland, same thing. Portland, one of my other podcasts is going to be on, you got kind of one of the big buildings in Portland. It's going into default. And lenders due to the situation in downtown Portland, no can do on that mortgage. So we're going to have to give this property back. Hope you guys can sell it and hope the new owner can work something out here because we are out of Portland. That's what a big owner, one of the buildings in downtown Portland, is basically saying. The governor said the partnership will not seek to criminalize those struggling with substance use and instead focus on holding drug suppliers and traffickers accountable. How about if we held everybody in this little dealio accountable? How about the people that are taking drugs that are costing thousands and thousands of dollars in taxpayer money, sending out 911, sending out the fire department, sending out the cops? How about all this criminal activity that is a direct result from these jokers taking all these recreational drugs that used to be felonies that are now barely misdemeanors? What about going back to that? That's what you need to do. You need to start at the grassroots level, and that's with the addict. And if you got to throw the addict in jail, then you throw the addict in jail. But there are no repercussions for what's going on our streets. And so why wouldn't this continue to keep going the way it is? It's just going to keep on going till you get to that point because you've created that demand. The supply is always going to be there. There's so much money in this. But the announcement has garnered mixed reactions from the residents and business owners of San Francisco. While some believe that cracking down on drug dealers will help solve the city's drug crisis, others are concerned that criminalizing those struggling with substance abuse will not fix the problem. I don't think that fixes the problem, but you got to start somewhere and you got to do something. Got a bunch of pictures that show the Tenderloin just being an absolute train wreck. I mean, you want to go to San Francisco and see that on your sidewalk out in front of the store right here? Probably not. Deal with human feces on the sidewalk? You probably don't want to deal with that. How about Tucker Carlson out at Fox? Yeah, that happened this morning, right? We got Don Lemon out at CNN, Tucker Carlson out at Fox, and Dan Bongino out last week at Fox. Are all those guys going to get together and do their own podcast? Probably. Who knows? Progressives argue that the city is simply repeating a failed war on drugs, while moderates want more prosecutions of drug dealers and increased action to tackle the issue. You're going to have to do something about the homeless folks. You're going to have to put them somewhere. There's a lot of folks that would say treatment is housing. You got to get some people into treatment. These folks don't want to go into treatment. That's the bottom line, right? It's the bottom line. Where was I reading? I was reading about an open, a safe RV site or a safe camp in your car site recently, somewhere here in the Pacific Northwest. And they didn't market it very well. So after like a weekend or a week or something like that, there was only one person that had taken advantage of it. And a lot of that I attribute to the fact that people want to keep doing their drugs and just keep doing their thing. They don't want to deal with any of this other stuff. So going after the drug dealers, you throw one drug dealer in jail, if you've still got this demand, which is dealing with it at the addict level, that demand is still there. Guess what? Somebody's going to take that position and I'll sell because there's money in it. And when I kind of first got involved with this, one of my kids was on drugs, who's no longer with us. These pills were $40-50 a pop. Now they're $1 to $2 a pop. So you got that. You got people hooked. super expensive. And then you bring them on down, then you flood the market. This is what you got. This is what you got. New statistics reveal a 41% surge in overdoses in San Francisco in the first quarter of this year, compared to the same period last year, with 200 people dying in the year to March. Recently, San Francisco's politicians have been looking to outside sources for assistance managing the problem. So Portland asks California for assistance managing their homelessness problem because, California's got it so well down. They're bringing a company up to Oregon, to Portland, can you help us out with our homeless people? We don't know what to do. There's too many and they're sleeping everywhere. They got tents everywhere. So we're doing that. Meanwhile, California itself is like, we got too many people whacked out on drugs, too many people dying. Bring in the feds. So they're trying this collaborative approach, right? They're doing something, but it irks me because they created this at the local level. And now they want assistance. It's like, just figure it out on your own. Other cities haven't gone there and haven't had to do this. So figure it out on your own, do the tough work, figure it out, get a game plan. And you don't need, this is California. California has a bigger gross domestic product than so many countries in the world. It can be done. It can be figured out. But why do that without federal funding? I mean, everybody loves a little bit of that Fed money, that free Fed money, right? On Wednesday, J.J. Smith, an activist who documents the horror he sees on the streets of San Francisco, said the governor walked by him. He asked, "What are you going to do about this fentanyl epidemic?" The governor, who had just seconds prior extended a theatrical wave to people watching him take his walkabout, punted Smith's question and said, "What should I do, JJ? I need you to tell me what we need to do." Well, you need to not allow people to live willy-nilly wherever the F they are. You need to not allow people to do drugs out in the open. You need to not allow these open-air drug markets to exist on our streets. You need to have the option, all right, if you don't want to go into treatment and you don't want to go into housing, then you do put people in jail. Okay? So those are some of the small things I would start with. I think you really need to expand your mental health care and your drug addiction specialists. You need to really expand that because you've created this system, this system that exists. And without those components, you're going to fail. You're just going to fail because you got a bunch of people whacked out of their minds on drugs. Recounting the back and forth later, Smith said the governor shrugged me on and did not answer the question. It's shocking that a politician does that, right? I'm a citizen. I pay taxes. I've been paying taxes in San Francisco for many years, and I deserve for him to at least stop and say something to me about that, said Smith, whose online videos often document the tormented lives of those addicted to fentanyl and living on the streets. He added that Newsom and his entourage walked down the street during a bright and sunny hour of the day when they weren't likely to see any misdeeds occurring. I'm in the streets. I know what's going on in the streets, he said. People from City Hall can't tell you what's going on in the streets because they don't know. So he went there himself. And, that's what I appreciate about Jonathan Cho here in Seattle. He's out in the streets day in and day out, getting that firsthand footage of, hey, here's what's going on. So then we go on to talk about, they're going to have crackdowns and the drug dealing since 2021. 3-month emergency in the Tenderloin. Yeah, that did absolutely nothing. Put some cops on the streets. Yeah, that's pretty normal. We're seeing that in Portland right now. Just a bunch of, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's have a conversation about this. Let's have a conversation about this. Until you deal with the grassroots issues, nothing's going to happen here. These people are whacked out of their minds. And you know what? This is what you get. This is what you get for having policies that have basically failed your citizens. Everybody wanted to, have this utopian world where people could just walk around and do drugs and it was going to be great. Now, we didn't think that maybe someday there'll be this global issue where, a couple of big countries outside of the U.S. get together and create this perfect product for all of America's built-in drug addicts. And it's just going to run train on cities where this has been, this has been made accessible. The environment you've got, Portland, Seattle, LA, San Fran is massively conducive to people not living, like normal human beings, not paying any of their own bills, taking drugs like there's no tomorrow, a massive suck on society, OD, and we pay for it all. And there are no consequences for their behavior whatsoever, other than occasionally they overdose. That seems like a pretty good plan. I mean, this is literally what you're working with, right? So you're at a point where things are skyrocketing and they're escalating really quickly. And so these cities are going around going, oh, this isn't good. We might have to actually do something here. I know. Let's call the feds. Let's bring in the National Guard. What's the national? I mean, seriously, what are you going to do? You're going to have to figure out eventually on your own, right? So it's kind of like having your parents help. Yeah, maybe in some situations you need that, but do you really need that long-term on this one? You're just going to, every time something gets real bad, you're going to bring in the feds? So public policy in San Francisco is continually allowed for a skyrocketing homeless, drug-addicted, and mentally unstable population to run the streets of the city. That's about it, right? I mean, that's about all you need to know. Hey, you allowed this to happen. Maybe you need to go back, create some policy that, counteracts this, makes this work in a different direction. Until you do that, I don't feel sorry for you, and I don't think federal money should be spent working on these issues. They were created on their own, didn't have any federal help. You can figure out a solution on your own, but that's not what we're doing. City is also facing a spiraling violent crime problem. Tech exec Bob Lee became one of the city's last murder victims last week. Number of homeless people was tallied at almost 8,000 in San Fran. And we just keep going down this long laundry list of failed policy that's resulted in this type of environment where, and I podcast on this all the time on businesses leaving. Hey, you got this business leaving. You've got, Whole Foods leaving after 1 year. Portland, you got REI leaving because of failed policy. You allowed the drug crisis to go on. You allowed the homelessness to go on. You were so compassionate towards your fellow, drugged out human being that you just let all this stuff happen. And even meanwhile this is happening, you've got legislation in Portland that is like, well, if you sweep out somebody in a homeless encampment, we think the fine should be $1,000, not for those that are living illegally, but for those doing the sweeps against homeless people, because, it's one of those backwards piece of legislation that is like, viewing these folks living on the streets as just harmless individuals that have no place left to go. And other than sleeping in a tent, that is their only infraction. When in fact, it's this massive ecosystem of drugs and criminal activity to afford the drugs. So you got a lot of shenanigans going on. You got shenanigans all day long. And now some of the shenanigans are people dying, people overdosing in huge numbers. And so counties are having to go, oh yeah, we can't really avoid that number. That's not good. That's not a good PR look. Hey, let's bring in the feds. That's literally what you've got going on. What are the feds going to do that, this state with its resources greater than most, major countries out there can't figure out on their own? Well, I mean, they figured out how to get here. They can't work their way out. No, the answer is they can't, because in order to do that, they would have to take on some of the policies that some might say are moderate. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Huh. And you know what? We're just not going there. They're not going there yet. Not going there yet. It's like Chicago. City of Chicago had every opportunity to point A or point B, choose the right mayor that was going to take a tough on crime stance. But instead, they didn't choose the one supported by the police union. They chose the one supported by the teachers union that's real progressive. All right. Chicago, you're going to provide me, more and more podcasts because you're going to keep having this stuff going on. So until you take a tough stance on criminal activity in general, start throwing some people in jail, start having district attorneys who are actually going to prosecute people. Don't defund the police till you start doing that kind of stuff. I think you just got much of the same. And I think this is one of those, well, the governor tried. He tried his best to put a dent. This is all a massive PR stunt because he's going to run for office. He's going to run for president. And this is a PR. When I saw this, I was like, that's a total PR stunt. He's got no interest in walking the streets of San Francisco because everybody knows they're not safe. Even though the big story out there is, hey, our violent crime numbers are considerably lower than other cities the size of ours. Well, why are so many businesses leaving? Yeah. Gonna have to get back to you on that one. But, don't think too much about it. Don't dwell on it too much. It's just not reasonable. Yeah, that's what's going on, right? You've got criminal activity that's off the hook. It might not be murders, but you know what? There's more than one type of criminal activity going on. And right now, how about people just getting robbed left and right in San Francisco? How about people going to the airport and car rental agencies saying, yeah, it's probably not safe to be renting a car. Maybe don't rent and this is a car rental agency. Really check your bags, hold on to your stuff, lock it in the trunk if you can, because otherwise they'll whack your window and reach in as you're driving your car and steal your stuff. News crew had that happen in San Fran not long ago. And we've covered it all. So this is not new stuff. This is just a opportunity for now, current Governor Newsom to descend, off of his throne and come down and walk the streets of San Francisco, check out, just how things look. And again, they said it was during the day, not at night. And now he's going to have some kind of collaboration effort to try and clean up San Francisco because, he's going to run for president. So it needs things to look better. Hey, look at what he did getting that whole situation squared away. He brought in the feds when he needed to. That's what you got going on here, right? Because the stuff they're talking about going after the drug dealers, I mean, it doesn't hurt, but if that demand is still there, they're going to figure out a way to get the drugs to them, right? I mean, that's how this stuff works. So until you start working with the addict at the base level, you got nothing. Those guys are going to, robbing and stealing out there, wilding, robbing and stealing, right? Sounds like a punk rock song of sorts, right? Maybe a little Beastie Boys. Yeah. Little Beastie Boys. They were good back in the day, right? Okay. All right. So how will this go? Yeah, it's a bunch of PR. It's a bunch of talk. It's, you guys go do this. You guys go do that. Not much will happen. How about that? How about that for my official prediction? Will this stop the flow of drugs into San Francisco? Hell no. No, it won't. Will this stop the illicit whatever, yada. No. This will do nothing other than bolster Newsom's chances at presidential bid. And that, I mean, when you got a guy like him, that's, one of the Democrats' best options as far as president goes, it's like, really? Huh. Okay. All right. Whatever. That guy's an idiot. As far as I'm concerned, that's not the guy. It's the opposite of the guy that I would want to do the job because he can't handle things on his own. Bring in the feds. Why would we want that kind of guy for president? I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to get back to you on that. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.